It started with a knock at the door, early, unexpected, and way too serious for a quiet Saturday morning. I opened it to find two men in uniform, not police, not military, just the unmistakable look of HOA enforcers with clipboards and stern faces. At first, I thought it was just another warning about the lawn or maybe the mailbox being the wrong shade of beige. But then they said something that made my stomach drop. "You're being evicted." Now hold on. We pay our dues. Our mortgage is current. There's no way this could be real. But the way they stood there, so sure of themselves, like they had the power to kick us out of our own home, it lit something in me. What they didn't know was that my wife, the one they thought they could intimidate, is a Navy commander. She's not just used to pressure, she thrives in it. As I tried to understand what was really going on, my wife came downstairs, calm and collected. She listened, asked one question, and then everything shifted. You could feel the tension crackle in the air like static. What followed next was something I never expected, because this wasn't just about us anymore. It was about standing up to something bigger. And trust me, they knocked on the wrong door that day. So here's where things start getting weird. According to the enforcers, there were multiple violations on our property. Things like a garden hose left out, a flag mounted incorrectly, and get this, our backyard fence being 2 inches too high. 2 inches. That acted like we were running some underground operation from our patio. I asked to see the official notices, the paperwork, anything that showed this wasn't just some twisted mix-up. But they didn't have anything on them. Just a lot of attitude and vague threats about next steps. My wife, still in her Navy sweats from morning PT, stood there taking it all in. You could see the gears turning. She's trained to read people under pressure, and she wasn't buying their story for a second. The HOA had always been strict, sure, but this felt targeted, personal. We started looking back, thinking about the times we'd pushed back on unfair rules, or the complaints we filed when they tried to fine neighbors over harmless things. Was this retaliation? Was someone on the board trying to make an example out of us? And the biggest question, how far were they actually willing to go? Because once we started digging into the HOA's records, what we found didn't just raise red flags, it practically set off sirens. And that's when things really took a turn. Over the next few days, things got even more intense. Strange notices started showing up in our mailbox, some with no official letterhead, others demanding thousands in back dues that didn't make sense. We'd never missed a payment, ever. It was like the HOA was throwing everything they could at us, hoping something would stick. My wife started logging every interaction, every letter, every shady visit. As a Navy commander, she's trained to document and report, and she wasn't about to let this slide without a paper trail. Meanwhile, neighbors began reaching out quietly. One by one, they shared their own stories. Warnings about repainting their garage doors, sudden fines for minor landscaping issues, even threats of foreclosure. One neighbor whispered that someone on the HOA board had close ties with a private real estate developer. Supposedly, they were looking to flip houses in our area, and families who made too much noise were being pressured out. We weren't just dealing with an overzealous HOA anymore. This felt like a coordinated plan to push people out of their homes, and that changed everything. I caught one of the enforcers driving by our place late at night, just idling at the curb. No clipboard this time, just watching. That's when we realized we might be in deeper than we thought. And the clock was ticking. That night, we barely slept. Every sound outside felt louder than usual. Every headlight that flashed through our blinds made our hearts race. My wife, cool as ever, started setting up a security cam system around the house. I was trying to stay calm for the kids, but inside, I was boiling. This wasn't just about our home anymore. It felt like a direct attack on our family. The next morning, we got a letter slid under our door. No envelope, no stamp, just a single piece of paper with one line. Asterisk, you've been warned. Asterisk, that was it. No name, no HOA letterhead, nothing. My wife read it once, folded it neatly, and said, They just made their biggest mistake. That same day, she contacted the base's legal office. She wasn't playing around anymore. As a Navy commander, she knew how to handle threats, and this was officially crossing the line. She also started reaching out to other families in the neighborhood, especially the ones who had similar experiences. Suddenly, we weren't alone anymore. We started planning a meeting. Off the books, quiet, just trusted neighbors. We met in our garage, phones off, windows closed. People showed up scared, but ready to fight back. The room was filled with stories, evidence, even video clips. And then someone dropped a name we recognized. That's when everything changed. The name that came up in that garage meeting hit harder than we expected: Trevor Langston. He used to be just a guy we saw around, always at HOA meetings, always overly friendly. But what most of us didn't know was that he wasn't just a board member. He was also a partner in a real estate investment firm that had been quietly buying up homes in nearby neighborhoods. Homes that had been foreclosed on. Homes where families had been forced out for violation stacking. A tactic we were just starting to understand. But here's the twist: Trevor used to serve too. Not in the Navy like my wife, but Army intelligence. That explained his calm, calculated way of operating, and why he always stayed just within legal lines. He knew exactly how far he could push before it became a real problem. This wasn't some clumsy power grab. This was a strategic operation to fit the whole neighborhood under the disguise of HOA policy enforcement. And now, it wasn't just about us. If this guy was involved, it meant there was an actual strategy, backed by money, influence, maybe even access to personal data. Suddenly, the letters, the midnight visits, the vague threats, they weren't random. They were steps in a plan we were right in the middle of, and we had no idea how far they'd go to shut us up. Everything came to a head 1 week later. We had gathered enough evidence, paper trails, recorded conversations, and testimonies from other homeowners. My wife, working with base legal support, helped file a formal complaint not just with the State Housing Authority, but also with the military's Legal Affairs Office, since a service member was being targeted in what looked like a coordinated harassment campaign. But the real breaking point: we found an internal HOA email thread. Someone leaked it anonymously. It was filled with casual talk about clearing the way for redevelopment, naming our family directly. They joked about using pressure tactics, and even referenced Trevor's firm being ready to buy once homes hit foreclosure status. It was all there, plain as day. We couldn't believe it. This wasn't just shady behavior, it was criminal. The next HOA meeting was packed. More people showed up than ever before. My wife walked in wearing her service uniform, evidence folder in hand. Calm, firm, unshakable, she presented everything. There was silence, then shouting, then finally resignations. Trevor didn't even show up. We later found out he'd quietly stepped down and left town the day before. It felt like we won. We kept our home. The neighborhood started pushing for new leadership, new rules, more transparency. But just when we thought it was over, we got a letter, not from the HOA, from Trevor's firm. They were suing us for defamation. It felt like we won. We kept our home. The neighborhood started pushing for new leadership, new rules, more transparency. But just when we thought it was over, we got a letter, not from the HOA, from Trevor's firm. They were suing us for defamation. The lawsuit hit us like a punch, but we didn't panic. My wife had already filed a military protections claim, and several neighbors stepped up to offer statements backing our story. Local news got wind of everything, and suddenly the spotlight was on Trevor's firm, not us. Turns out, we weren't the first ones they'd tried to silence. Within weeks, the lawsuit was dropped. Quietly, just like Trevor had disappeared. In the end, we kept our home, and the HOA was completely restructured. A new board was elected, this time made up of actual neighbors who cared about the community, not investors with hidden agendas. The security cameras stayed up though. We learned you can't be too careful when money and power get involved, even in a quiet neighborhood. Looking back, the whole thing still feels unreal. A Navy commander going head-to-head with a corrupt HOA and a shady real estate scheme. That's not something you expect to happen in your own front yard. But it did. And if there's one thing we took from it, it's this. Don't back down when you know you're right. Especially when your home, your family, and your values are on the line. Because sometimes standing your ground is exactly what makes the difference.